John Noe unveils Greater Than We Believe with your host, Stephen King.
Well, welcome back. We're glad to see you here again. Once again, my name is Stephen King. This is my friend John Noe. We are putting on a continuing series here called Greater Than We Believe, which is speaking of Jesus himself. And under the subheading of Greater Than We Believe, or the subheading we've had a lot of them so far. Right now we are under the subheading of Kingdom Christianity. We are really staying on this subject of the kingdom. We've had quite a few videos already, over 20 some odd videos more on the subject of the kingdom. And we've just finished several great series having to do, well, one was called The Present Day Nature and Under-Realized Status, which brings the kingdom today to the forebear, to the front, to where you and I are living right now and our relationship to it. So I appreciate, John, that you've brought us in. For those of you, I just wanted you to know that today we are blessed and privileged to have a peanut gallery. We have got some of John's grandkids, which I want him to talk about, that are here visiting with us today. And they decided to sit in for a session and get a view on what Grandpa does. And so, John, take it from there, and we will...
This is obviously a manifestation that our ministry is growing.
Yes. we got followers today.
Yeah, can't wait.
No, okay.
Well, we are honored to have my granddaughter Elizabeth and Claire and my grandson Eli
Okay.
with us. Why don't you say hi, viewers, to all our viewers, so they know I'm really talking about somebody that's here.
Hi, viewers.
Oh, wow. I like that.
I hope they heard that.
Maybe we need to do that every week.
Okay, well, go ahead with your introduction here.
Well, basically today's video is going to be number 82. See, I forgot to mark that. We just did 81, Naming the Greater Works. This is going to be part 2 of that. We actually have a 3-part series called Naming the Greater Works. So, John, catch us up on what we just talked about in the last one, and then we will continue on with the subject of naming those greater works that Jesus said we will do.
Was Jesus kidding? Was Jesus calling us to do something that was impossible?
I would hope not.
Would you please read again
Okay.
Jesus' words in John 14, verse 12?
John 14:12 says, I tell you the truth, anyone who has faith in me will do what I have been doing. He will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father.
King James says, verily, verily.
Mm-hmm.
That's old
That's
language.
Old language, yes.
Those who believe in me, the works that I do shall you do, and greater works than these shall you do, because I go to my Father. Is he serious?
Mm-hmm.
Most Christians have totally ignored both the works of Jesus
Yes.
and the greater works. Some even call that triumphalism. But as we shall see, the Bible, if I may borrow it again, the Bible is full of commandments to God's people of doing greater works than Jesus did. And by that I mean works that Jesus never did.
Yes.
That they are called to do, from Genesis to maps, that we're called to do. And that's what we're going to look at now, because of the opposition to this is so huge within church circles. We want to ground this, Stephen, extensively throughout both the Old Testament, not exhaustively,
Yes.
but extensively. And I'm going to utilize your help in doing that. And we're going to see that God's people have always been called to do these greater works. Yes. This is nothing new with the New Testament.
Okay.
This was in the Old Testament and is expanded and enhanced in the New Testament.
Okay.
So if you are ready to go on this, are we ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. Let's start with Genesis 1. I'll do this.
Okay.
Genesis 1:26. Then God said, let us make man in our image and in our likeness, and let them rule. Rule, Stephen, is the first mention of what's termed the mandate of creation.
Okay.
That we would rule over what? over all of God's creation.
Yes.
In that case, it was the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
Back then and there. Genesis 1:28. Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion, there's that word, over the fish of the sea and over the fowls of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Stephen, it's our threefold purpose as God's image bearers, not just back there in the Garden of Eden, but in the New Testament and in our day and time today.
Okay.
To protect what has been given to us, to extend the glory of God to the ends of the earth, and to extend his image to all creation. Originated back then and there. And this concept is variously determined: the dominion mandate, the creation mandate, or the Genesis mandate, or the theocratic mandate, or the cultural mandate. I prefer the dominion mandate for these two reasons. Dominion is a synonym for kingdom. The kingdom is a political metaphor that insists that everything and everyone is under the will, reign, and rule of God.
Yes.
Agree or disagree?
I agree.
Whether they realize it or not, or whether they agree or not. In other words, the word kingdom is king. It's where the king is in dominion.
Yes.
Kingdom.
Yes.
Got it?
Got it.
Therefore, as God's image bearers, we are to live out Jesus' kingdom in this world. And we do that by being stewards, good stewards over every aspect of God's earthly creation as Adam and Eve were called to be in the garden, and serving as his divine representatives. In other words, we are to take dominion over all things.
Yes.
And as we shall further see, this dominion mandate has never been rescinded.
Nope.
Never. Rather, it has been enhanced and expanded.
Yes.
You ready for the enhancement and the expanded?
Let's do it.
Genesis 9, 1 through 7. After the fall, God repeats this mandate. After the fall.
Okay.
We didn't lose that in the fall. Thus, reaffirming the continuance of man's image-bearing distinction for Noah and his sons to be stewards over all creation,
Yes.
post-flood. And this is the beginning of the given, lost, and redeemed theme that we see developed also throughout the whole Bible. Hence, this mandate, as I mentioned, was not lost or rescinded at the fall or any time subsequent to that. Genesis 12:3, all people, families of the earth will be blessed through you. That it was through Adam's seed. This blessing was not to be hoarded or privatized, which is what the Old Covenant Jews did,
Yes.
and which they paid the big price for doing that. It was notably, if to fast forward, in Galatians 3:29, we are told that if we belong to Christ, then we are Abraham's seed. Ties us right back into that. And heirs according to the promise. And like Abraham, we too are called to be a blessing to all the peoples of the earth, are we not?
Yes.
Passing on this blessing of worldwide dominion is also what the Lord's Prayer is all about. Thy dominion,
Yes.
kingdom come, thy will be done. Where? In your church.
On earth as it is in heaven.
Not according to McKnight.
Yeah,
We talked
okay.
about not McKnight's view. It's
Yes.
best done in the church.
Yeah.
No. On earth as it is in heaven. And how's it done in heaven? Throughout.
Yes.
Thus, throughout on earth. So how extensive is his kingdom and this dominion? Exodus 20, verses 5 through 6. You shall not bow down to them or worship them or other gods. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, by showing love to thousands who love me and keep my commands. Question: is America bowing down to other gods today?
Yes.
What?
Yes. Unfortunately.
And what are Christians supposed to do about this? What other gods?
money, lusts, desires of the flesh, you name it.
What's
Power.
wrong?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. How about secularism and humanism?
Yes.
How about Hollywood and sports?
Yeah.
How about your church?
Sometimes, yes.
Remember, biblical history shows us that God judges the compromisers
Yes.
along with their country. Deuteronomy 30, if you would, verse 16.
Deuteronomy 30:16 says, "For I command you today to love the Lord your God, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commands, decrees, and laws. Then you will live and increase, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land you are entering to possess."
Stephen, don't you think this command includes the dominion mandate? Absolutely. Joshua 21, 43 and 45. So the Lord gave Israel all the land he had sworn to give them, to their forefathers, and they took possession of it. Notice they just didn't walk in and sit down.
Right.
They had to go take possession of it and settled there. The Lord gave them rest on every side, just as he had sworn to their forefathers. Not one of their enemies. Notice they still had enemies?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't he just get rid of those before they came in so they didn't have to fool with those folks? Well, he didn't. Not one of their enemies withstood them. The Lord handed all their enemies over to them. Not one of all the Lord's good promises to the house of Israel failed. Every one was fulfilled. This historical account, Stephen, of Israel battling to acquire the promised land, in my opinion, depicts typologically the church's battle, or the Christian's battle, or the kingdom battle to advance the kingdom of Christ in our day and time.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Types and shadows, and the antitype in fulfillment.
Yes.
God did not instantly purify that land for the Israelites, did he? Any more than he has purified this country of the United States for us, or any country in the world for any other Christians. Rather, he instructs his people to go in and take it.
Yes.
And trust in his power to roll up their sleeves and get to work. And yes, there is a greater blessing promised by participating in the works and greater works of Jesus Christ as we do this, as opposed to taking the fatalistic approach of expecting God to do all the work while we sit idly by and watch him do it.
Right.
Or get raptured off of the surface of planet Earth while he's doing it.
Yes.
And get out of here. But unlike the Israelites of the old covenant time, Stephen, we today are given and promised the whole world. They were only given and promised
That little section of
that
ground.
little section. But like them, we have to go out and fight for it.
Yeah. Yes.
We have to go out and take it. We have to go and take possession of it with God on our side. Is that fair?
Yes.
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 Some people might object.
Well, that's their problem.
Well, anyway, that's the type and antitype fulfillment that's being pictured here.
Okay.
Joshua 23:10. One of you routs 1,000, because the Lord your God fights for you just as he promised. And he promises to fight for us. Would you read the famous verse now? 2 Chronicles 7:14.
It says, "If my people, who are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear them from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land."
Notice it's not just praying, is it?
Yes.
Normally this passage is looked at as just praying. No, there's a lot more to it than just praying. Jacobs, in her book, The Reformation Manifesto, calls this verse the biblical model for healing the land.
Yes.
By what wicked ways, then, must we turn from? Well, how about abrogating our dominion mandate duties, for starters? And saying, no, we're not going to do that. We don't believe that's the way Christianity should be practiced and perceived, despite all the stuff that you're citing from the Bible. 2 Chronicles further goes on in 16, verse 9 says, "For the eyes of the Lord look to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself
Mighty.
mighty or strong in behalf of them whose heart is perfect toward him. In other words, whose heart takes the dominion mandate seriously and puts feet to it. Psalm 2, 8 through 12.
8 through 12 says, "As of me, and I will make the nations your inheritance, the ends of the earth your possession."
The nations?
Make the nations your inheritance.
That's bigger than your church, isn't it?
A lot bigger. And it says, "You will rule them with an iron scepter. You will dash them to pieces like pottery."
And keep going.
"Therefore, you kings, be wise. Be warned, you rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and you be destroyed in your way. For his wrath can flare up in a moment. Blessed are all those who take refuge in him."
This messianic psalm is for ruling the nations, and it's part and an enhancement and expansion of the original dominion mandate, is it not? Psalm 8, 4 through 6 says this, "What is man that you are mindful of him, the son of man that you care for him? You made him a little lower than the heavenly angels or heavenly beings, and crowned him with glory and honor." Why? You made him ruler to have dominion over the works of your hands and put everything under his feet. What are we doing with that? Would you please read what Overman, Christian Overman, says in his book Assumptions That Affect Our Lives, page 59, if you would, just in yellow there.
"Man was commissioned to manage God's very creation. That which he spoke into existence and proclaimed to be good, he entrusted into the hands of human beings for care and stewardship. Man, being created in God's image, was thoroughly equipped for the task, because the capacity for rulership is also one of the central aspects of what it means to be made in the likeness of God."
Hear that? In the likeness of God.
We are the only creatures given stewardship over all the earth. It is a mandate of utmost responsibility and a position of tremendous honor.
Wow. The creation mandate.
Yes.
From Genesis to Maps. Well, let's pursue on. Psalm 24:1. The earth is the Lord's and some of the things in it.
Come on, read it right. All. The word is all. Or everything.
What? No, just the church.
Okay.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Right? The earth is the Lord's and some things in it. And we live in it. No, everything in it.
Yes.
No exceptions, no exclusions. Everything means everything.
Yes.
And there's more. Psalm 72:8. His dominion shall be from the sea to the sea and from the river into the ends of the lands. Jacob's, what did I do with Jacob's books? Oh, here it is, right here. Jacob's again in her book, The Reformation Manifesto, notes that the Bible gives a sound doctrinal reason to take dominion over the powers of darkness and establish God's will or dominion everywhere.
Everywhere.
Psalm 82:3, defend the cause of the weak. That's a place of everywhere, isn't
Yes.
it? And the fatherless, and maintain the rights of the poor and the oppressed. This is termed doing justice, as we reflect the righteousness and justice of God. Psalm 94:16, who will rise up for me against the wicked? Who? Yes. Well, it should be all of us.
Yep.
Right? Who will take a stand for me against evildoers? Well, it should be all of us, right? If we want to hear the words, well done, good and faithful servant, someday. Does that make sense?
Send me.
Psalm 103:19, the Lord has established his throne in heaven, and his kingdom rules over some of it.
Don't do that.
All of it.
There you go.
Indeed, the universe is a theocracy.
Yes.
Like it or not.
Right.
We live in a theocracy.
Right.
Psalm 110, 1 through 2.
The Lord says to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. The Lord will extend your mighty scepter from Zion. Rule in the midst of your enemies.
Oh, that was Old Testament. That's no longer applicable, is it? Psalm 115:16, the highest heavens belong to the Lord, but the earth he has given to man. Is that also Old Testament?
No, that's it's today.
Yes, God's people are to be his stewards and exercise dominion. Psalm 149, 5 through 9.
149, 5 through 9 says, "Let the saints rejoice in this honor and sing for joy on their beds. May the praise of God be in their mouths and a double-edged sword in their hands, to inflict vengeance on the nations and punishment on the peoples." Vengeance on the nations and punishment on the peoples.
Oh, that's got to be Old Testament only, right?
To bind their kings with fetters, their nobles with shackles of iron, to carry out the sentence written against them. This is the glory of all his saints. Praise the Lord.
Do you want to be part of his glory, or do you want to be a recipient of his wrath? Proverbs 21:3. Do what is right and just. To do what is right and just is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. Again, that's doing justice, Stephen.
Yes.
Ecclesiastes 12:13. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God.
Yes.
Keep his commandments. Which ones?
I think all of them, not some.
For this is the whole duty of man. Oh, that's Old Testament. Does this include the dominion mandate?
Yes.
Isaiah 1:16 through 17. Stop doing wrong. Learn to do right. Seek justice. Encourage the oppressed. Defend the cause of the fatherless. Plead the case of the widow. Unbiblical laws need to be abolished,
Yes.
or our societies will suffer for the sin they allow.
Yes.
Is that just Old Testament?
No.
It's turned biblical law. It's also part of the dominion mandate. Isaiah, now we come to the famous and prime kingdom prophecy verse.
Isaiah 9, 6, and 7 says, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever."
From what time on and forever?
With the
For
establishment.
unto us.
Yes, a child is born.
That's right. Does this include the dominion mandate?
I say yes.
Does this expand the dominion
Yes,
mandate?
absolutely.
Does this increase God's kingdom?
Yes.
This is the messianic prophecy of the future coming of the everlasting and ever-increasing kingdom that Jesus brought into human history. And it's a major enhancement and expansion of its dominion mandate. Andy Crouch in Christianity Today magazine article in 2004 touched on this aspect of the coupling that's contained in Isaiah 9:7 thusly. He said, prophets and psalmists thought in twos. Throne, kingdom. Establishing, upholding. Justice, righteousness. Justice and righteousness belong together, as do the other twos. They show up together more than 30 times in the Old Testament. Nearly always in a political context, because justice and righteousness, according to Andy Crouch, are the foundation of God's throne. That's not a minor issue, is it?
No.
Psalm 89:14, and they also are the measuring line and plumb line, Isaiah 28:17, of earthly thrones. In other words, they're key components of the dominion mandate.
Yes.
Isaiah 58:6 through 7, is not this the kind of fasting I have chosen, to loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke? Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor? Here it is. Provide the poor. Excuse me. Provide the poor with and wanderer with shelter. When you see the naked, to clothe him, and not to turn away from your own flesh and blood. In Isaiah 59:15 through 16, the Lord looked and was displeased. Why? That there was no justice. Well, he wouldn't be looking at America like that with
Absolutely.
just us aborting a few babies every now and then, would he? He saw that there was no one, and he was appalled that there was no one to intercede.
Yes.
That's Old Testament.
That's now.
Isaiah 61:8, for I, the Lord, love justice.
Yes.
I hate robbery, like stealing things out of wombs, for example, and inequity. Also see Matthew 23:23. But now if you would read Jeremiah 1:6-12, Stephen.
Ah, sovereign Lord, I said, I do not know how to speak. I am only a child.
In other words, I don't want to do what you want me to do.
Yeah. I'm not worthy.
I'm trying to get out of this.
Yes.
We don't do that as Christians today, though.
All the time. We shouldn't, but we do. But verse 7 says, but the Lord said to me, do not say I am only a child. You must go to everyone I send you to and say whatever I command you. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you and I will rescue you, declares the Lord. Then the Lord reached out his hand and touched my mouth and said to me, now I have put my words in your mouth. See, today I appoint you over nations and kingdoms to uproot and tear down, to destroy and overthrow, to build and to plant.
Stop. I appoint you over nations. I appoint you over kingdoms to uproot and to tear down. I appoint you to destroy, and I appoint you to overthrow and to plant and to build. Will you go? Continue on.
Verse 11 says, the word of the Lord came to me. What do you see, Jeremiah? I see the branch of an almond tree, I replied. The Lord said to me, you have seen correctly, for I am watching to see that my word is fulfilled.
You mean he's watching us
Yes.
to see that we fulfill his word?
Yes.
How are we doing?
Need a little improvement, I think.
Ezekiel 22:30, I looked for a man among them who would build up the wall and stand before me in the gap on behalf of the land, so I would not have to destroy it. But I found none. He's looking today as well. Daniel. Notice how we're moving through the Bible here, the Old
Yes.
Testament?
Yeah.
All right, we're moving quite a lot. We're moving right along here. Daniel 7:13-14. And there was given him dominion, i.e. Jesus, and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, how many? All people, nations, languages should serve him. His dominion, there it is. His dominion is an everlasting dominion. There's it is again, which shall not pass away. Not with the coming of the New Testament, right?
That's right.
It would just be enhanced and expanded.
Right.
Will not pass away, in his kingdom, which shall not be destroyed. Again, this is prophesying of the enhancement and expansion of the dominion mandate yet to come with the coming of the Messiah into human history. Daniel 7:18-27 points to a future time in history when the, quote, saints of the Most High were to receive the kingdom.
You'd have to have seen this other one before to understand what we did with the receive.
When you receive something,
I received it.
it's by works.
Yeah. You got to do something.
That is a work.
It's an active work.
All right. Again, probably say, then where was I at? Okay, possessing it and handing it over to the saints. Jesus did.
Yeah.
That's what he did he not? This is exactly what he did during his earthly ministry. Luke 22:29-30. Amos 5, back to the Old Testament, 24 says, let justice roll like the waters and righteousness as a mighty stream. Many Old Testament verses speak about justice. Many. Wright, in his book, N.T. Wright, sometimes I call him N.T. wrong, but he's right about this.
Okay.
In his book, Evil and the Justice of God, terms this the great theme of justice, of the justice of God. And we are to be part of this.
Yes.
Not observers, not of spectators, but participants.
Yes.
Receiving and running and running with it. And here it is, Micah 6:8. And what does the Lord require of you? But to go to church on Sunday, sit in your pew,
Stop
and
it.
keep your mouth shut.
Read the real words.
Isn't that what it says?
No, that's not at all what it says.
Oh, Micah 6:8. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to work humbly with your God.
Thank you, Lord.
In other words, do what he says.
Yes.
All right. The Jewish prophetic tradition was a combination of both foretelling and foretelling, with foretelling being the major component.
Yes.
Foretelling involved calling out wrongs, idolatry, and injustices in the current culture of that day and time,
Yes.
and a prediction of hard times that were ahead for Israel if it did not change its ways. Israel did not change its ways.
Right.
They got wiped out
Yes.
circa AD 70. How about America? Will we be willing to change our ways? Us, how many, I don't know how many Christians, what is it, 60% or 70% of Americans claim to be Christians?
Something like that.
Are we willing to pay the price, to pursue the dominion mandate in our country, or will we pay the price of disobedience? Haggai 2:8, silver is mine and gold is mine, declares the Lord Almighty. What does that have to do with dominion? Because silver and gold speaks of economics and of money. It's a spiritual and kingdom issue, is it not? And lastly, if you will read Zechariah 7:9-12.
Zechariah 7:9-12 says, "This is what the Lord Almighty says. Administer true justice. Show mercy and compassion to one another. Do not oppress the widow or the fatherless, the alien or the poor. In your hearts do not think evil of each other." But they refused to pay attention. Stubbornly, they turned their backs and stopped up their ears. They made their hearts as hard as flint and would not listen to the law or to the words that the Lord Almighty had sent by his Spirit through his earlier prophets. So the Lord Almighty was very angry.
That's not good, is it?
Ooh.
Not good?
Ooh.
Not good.
No.
Not good. Stephen, divine judgment would come upon Israel for disobedience. Question. Will divine judgment come upon our country because of disobedience?
I believe so, yes.
Or does all this that we've been reading about, and there's a lot more in the Old Testament, this just highlights, or does all this change when we get to the New Testament? And it's now past history.
Red flag.
I wouldn't want to miss next week. Because we're going to get into the New Testament and we're going to see.
Yes.
Do things change? Yes. And do things change? No.
Thank you, John. Okay, folks. Have we thoroughly confused you? Thank you, John. I appreciate that. John made mention of something that I've talked about this before, and I have to be very careful how I word this because I don't want to overstep myself. I'm speaking purely my opinion here, and John doesn't know I'm going to say this, but he used the word prophet, and he's mentioned back in those days of Israel that a prophet had two things he did. He did foretelling, which was where God would say, you tell these people this is what's going to happen, and they were telling the future, and you could tell a false prophet from a real prophet based on whether what they said came true or not. But one of the major things that the prophets did, besides telling the future, of the great majority of the work they did was what John labels forthtelling. When you forthtell, you go to the people and tell them that what they're doing wrong, how they're going against God's standards, and what will happen to them if they don't change their ways. And if you look at the history of the prophets, that's what the majority of what they were doing was trying to get the people to come back in line with God's original intent for them. Now, there's too many people, in my opinion, today that love to put on titles. And I see a lot of people that say, just call me Apostle so-and-so or this or that. And I've seen some call themselves prophet or prophetess. And I'm not calling them down, but I will say John is not going to assume a title or a name, and he's not pushing himself as a prophet. But I will say, in my opinion, based on the things that we're learning and based on what God's will is for us, plainly seated or spoken there in Scripture, and where we are now, not just in this country here in the United States, but really all over the world. But where we are compared to where God wants us to be, I believe He's raising up people to foretell, to tell them, you're messing up, you're doing it wrong. Here, let's get back to God's original purpose. Now, that's my opinion. You can take it or leave it, but I feel that this series, the things you're seeing and hearing here, we are trying so hard not just to help you to be a Berean and to do personal study and to see for yourself, which is what we want you to do, but we want to help everyone realize that we as a whole, as a nation, and as the world, as Christian people, those that call ourselves Christians, have walked so far away from God's original intent. And we've got about 2,000 years worth of history to make up for, to get back to where Jesus when in Acts, when that early congregation there, the early church, turned the world upside down. We're not doing that anymore. And so I am using that word cautiously from the standpoint that I believe that John's message is being sent to us from God through the Holy Spirit. And I believe the things he has to say carry a lot of weight. And I urge you to pray on it, look up the scriptures that we use, and see how God directs you to go from there. John, thank you so much for your wisdom. Thank you for your humbleness and willing to share. And you've put many years into this, and I appreciate that. And I pray that God will use you in a mighty way. Meanwhile, we may not see anything really substantial come of this anytime soon. It may be long after John has passed before we actually see any real change in the world, but we don't know. It's up to God. He's in control. And so all I'm asking is that we be willing to open ourselves up to possibilities, to do like Isaiah and say, here I am, Lord, send me. That's what John has done. That's what I'm trying to do. And see how God will use you. And you may be amazed at the difference that your life will make to others and how the quality of your own life will change internally, the peace you'll have and the way your mind and spirit and the way you connect with God will take on a whole new dimension when you just give yourself up to God and are willing to make those changes in your life. Thank you, John, once again. I'm running along. We love you. Please continue to pray for the ministry, and we'll see you next week. Good night. All right, that's it. All right.